The stars looked like tiny dots of light against the black canvas of space as the human ship Perseverance traveled along its patrol route. Captain Jack sat in his command chair on the bridge, his eyes tracking the information on the main screen. The ship hummed with a steady beat, the sound of a well-maintained machine doing its job. "Another quiet day," Jack said, stretching his arms above his head. He had been captain for 5 years now, and most days passed without trouble. That was normal for patrols along the outer edges of Galactic Cooperative space. The Galactic Cooperative included 57 different alien species. Humans were the newest members, having joined only 20 years ago. Most alien races came from calm, peaceful planets. Humans did not. Earth was what aliens called a death world, a planet filled with dangers like storms, earthquakes, deadly animals, and disease. Living on such a world had made humans tough and ready for trouble. Jack looked around at his crew. Tanner worked at the communication station, her fingers moving over the controls as she checked for signals. Reed stood at the tactical station, his tall frame rigid as he watched the sensors for any signs of danger. Dr. Ellis studied data on her science console, her gray hair tied back neatly. In the engine room below, Engineer Morgan kept the ship's systems running perfectly. They were a good crew, each chosen for their skills and quick thinking. The Perseverance was a good ship too, built strong with backup systems for every important function. This extra caution confused many alien engineers, who didn't understand why humans planned for so many possible failures. But on Earth, such planning often meant the difference between life and death. "Captain," Tanner called suddenly, her hand pressing her earpiece tighter. "I'm picking up a signal. It's weak, but it sounds like a distress call." Jack sat up straight. "Can you clean it up? Where's it coming from?" Tanner's fingers moved quickly over her console. "It's coming from the Vega Nebula, sir. The signal is breaking up, but I can tell it's from a Luminari research vessel." The Vega Nebula was a huge cloud of gas and dust, famous for its beauty and for hiding pirates. The Luminari were peaceful aliens, with skin that glowed in different colors. They were known for their plant research in gentle ways. They were not fighters. "Put it on speaker," Jack ordered. A broken voice filled the bridge, the words cutting in and out. "Under attack research data. Need immediate. Not pirates. Please help." "Signal lost, sir," Tanner reported. "But I got coordinates before it cut out." Jack didn't hesitate. "Plot a course to those coordinates. Maximum speed." Reed turned from his station, concern on his face. "Captain, protocol says we should call for backup first. 3 ships have been attacked in that region this month alone. How long would it take backup to arrive?" Jack asked. Reed checked his console. "At least 6 hours, sir." "And how long will it take us to reach those coordinates?" 45 minutes at maximum speed." Jack nodded firmly. "The Luminari don't have 6 hours. We go now, and we call for backup while we travel." "Sir," Reed persisted, "we don't know what's waiting for us. It could be a trap." Jack stood up and walked to the main view screen, looking at the stars. "Lieutenant Reed, when humans first met the Luminary, do you know what they did? They gave us seeds for plants that could clean polluted soil. They've helped us restore damaged parts of Earth without asking for anything in return." He turned to face his crew. "I'm not going to leave them to die while we wait safely at a distance." Reed nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Yes, sir. Setting course now. Tanner, send a message to Cooperative Command. Tell them we're responding to a distress call from a luminary vessel in the Vega Nebula. Possible pirate attack. Request backup to our coordinates." "Yes," Captain Tanner replied, already sending the message. Jack pressed a button on his chair. "Engine room. This is the captain." Morgan's voice came through the speaker. "Engine room here. We need maximum speed to the Vega Nebula. There's a ship in trouble." "You'll have it, Captain." "Engines are ready for full power." Jack addressed the entire bridge crew. "This could be anything from pirates to a mechanical failure. I want all stations ready for any situation. Dr. Ellis, prepare medical bay for possible injuries." "Already on it, Captain?" Ellis replied, heading for the elevator. "Brooks," Jack called to his security chief, a strong woman with short black hair. "Prepare a boarding team. If the Luminary ship is damaged, we may need to evacuate survivors." "Yes, sir," Brooks responded, moving with purpose toward the weapon locker. The Perseverance changed course, its engines glowing brighter as it accelerated to maximum speed. Inside, the crew prepared for whatever they might find. Engineers checked systems and prepared repair tools. Security officers checked weapons and put on armor. Medical staff readied beds and medicine. Jack returned to his chair, feeling the slight vibration of the engines through the floor. "This is what we train for," he said to Reed. "This is why human ships carry extra weapons and have stronger shields than most cooperative vessels." Reed nodded. "The other species think we're paranoid." "They think that because they grew up on safe worlds," Jack replied. "When you grow up on Earth, you learn that being prepared isn't paranoia, it's survival." As the ship raced toward the nebula, Jack thought about the Luminari. They were physically weak compared to humans. Their skin was thin and could be injured easily. Their home planet had no large predators or extreme weather. They had never needed to develop physical strength or fighting skills. But their minds were brilliant, and their understanding of plants and living things had helped many worlds. The thought of Luminari researchers facing pirates or worse made Jack's jaw tighten. The Galactic Cooperative was supposed to be a place where all species could travel safely, where the strong helped protect the less powerful. That was the point of working together. Approaching the Vega Nebula, Captain Reed announced, "Entering in 5 minutes." Jack activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We are responding to a distress call from a Luminari research vessel. We don't know exactly what we're facing, but someone needs our help. This ship and crew represent humanity to the galaxy. Let's show them what that means." The nebula appeared on the view screen. A massive cloud of purple and blue gas, swirling with newborn stars. Somewhere in that beautiful chaos, someone was in danger. Jack felt his heart beat faster as the Perseverance prepared to enter the cloud. This was the moment when all the training, all the extra precautions that humans took would be tested. "Shields up," Jack ordered. "Weapon systems on standby. Take us in slow and steady, Tanner. Keep trying to contact that luminary ship." The Perseverance entered the nebula, the gases swirling around the ship like colored smoke. Visibility dropped immediately on the sensors. Energy readings bounced and scattered, making it hard to get clear readings. "This is why pirates like this place," Reed said. "It's like trying to see through fog while someone shines a light in your eyes." Jack nodded. "Stay sharp. Follow those coordinates exactly." Minutes passed as the ship pushed deeper into the nebula. The bridge was quiet. Everyone focused on their tasks. Then Tanner straightened suddenly at her station. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple ships ahead. 4 vessels. One matches luminary design. The others are," she paused, "unknown configuration, sir, not in our database." Jack felt a chill. Unknown ships meant possible first contact with a new species, and first contacts that began with attacks on research vessels rarely ended well. "Red alert," he ordered. "All hands to battle stations. Let's find out who our new friends are." The Perseverance moved forward, ready for whatever waited in the colorful mists ahead. The humans aboard didn't know it yet, but they were about to show the galaxy why species from Deathworlds should never be underestimated. The Perseverance pushed through the colorful gases of the nebula, its sensors working hard to cut through the interference. The bright blues and purples outside created dancing shadows across the bridge as Captain Jack leaned forward in his command chair. "Visual contact in 30 seconds, Reed announced, his hands steady on the controls despite the tension in his voice. Jack nodded. "Put it on the main screen as soon as we have a clear image." The crew waited, each person focused on their tasks. Engineer Morgan's voice came through the communication system from the engine room below. "Shields at full power, Captain. I've routed extra energy to the forward sections." "Good work, Morgan," Jack replied. The screen in front of them flickered, then cleared to show a scene that made several crew members gasp. A small ship with smooth, rounded edges and a soft blue glow was floating dead in space. Its hull showed several burn marks where it had been hit by weapons. Around it, 3 larger ships moved in a circle like predators stalking wounded prey. These ships were nothing like the Luminari vessel. They had sharp angles and dark metal hulls covered with what looked like spines. "That's a Luminari research ship?" Dr. Ellis said, pointing at the damaged vessel. "Standard model usually carries 10 to 15 crew members. And the others?" Jack asked. Reed shook his head as he studied his readings. "Unknown, sir. No match in our database. Their design doesn't match any known species in the Cooperative. They're armed heavily," Brooks observed from the security station. I count multiple weapon ports along each hull. Jack made his decision quickly. Tanner, open a channel. Let's try talking before shooting. Channel open, sir, Tanner replied after a moment. Jack stood up, straightening his uniform. This is Captain Jack of the Earth vessel Perseverance, representing the Galactic Cooperative. We are responding to a distress call from the Luminary ship. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. For several long seconds, there was no response. The three unknown ships continued their circle around the damaged Luminary vessel. They're scanning us, sir, Reed reported. Pretty thorough scan, too. They're looking at everything from our shield output to our life support systems. Finally, the main screen changed to show an alien unlike any the crew had seen before. It had gray-scaled skin that looked hard like armor. 6 yellow eyes were arranged in a pattern around its head. And instead of a mouth, it had moving parts like an insect's mandibles that clicked as it prepared to speak. This is Overlord Kran of the Swarm, the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computer into a metallic-sounding version of human speech. The vessel before us is our prize. Your interference is not welcome. Leave immediately or be destroyed. Jack kept his face calm, but he noted the term prize rather than captive or target. That single word told him a lot about these aliens' way of thinking. Overlord Kren, the ship you're surrounding belongs to a peaceful species that is a member of the Galactic Cooperative. If you have a dispute with them, we can arrange for neutral negotiators. There's no need for violence. The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly in what might have been laughter or irritation. Negotiation. We do not negotiate for resources. We take what we need. Your small vessel against 3 of ours. Your species must be either very brave or very foolish. Before Jack could respond, the alien cut the transmission. The screen returned to the view of the ships outside. They're powering up weapons, Captain, Reed said urgently. All 3 ships. Jack dropped back into his chair and hit the ship-wide communication button. All hands battle stations. This is not a drill. Prepare for combat and potential boarding action. Throughout the Perseverance, crew members moved quickly to their positions. In the armory, Brooks and her security team grabbed weapons and put on armored suits. In the medical bay, Dr. Ellis and her staff prepared for possible injuries. Reed, target the lead ship's weapon systems only, Jack ordered. I want to disable, not destroy. Let's see if we can change their minds about talking. Targeting systems locked, sir. Fire when ready. The Perseverance fired its main weapons, sending bright beams of energy toward the largest of the 3 alien ships. The shots hit with precision, striking 2 of the weapon ports and causing small explosions along the hull. Direct hits, Reed reported. Their forward weapons are damaged. The response was immediate and overwhelming. All 3 alien ships turned toward the Perseverance and fired at once. The human ship shook as multiple energy blasts hit its shields. Shields holding at 92%. Tanner called out, gripping her console to stay in her seat. They're coordinating their attack, Reed said, studying the tactical display. Very organized. They're targeting specific points on our shields, trying to create a weak spot. Jack nodded. On Earth, many predators hunted in packs using similar tactics. Let's show them we're not easy prey. Morgan, how much power can you give to the engines for a short burst? I can give you 120%, for about 30 seconds before the systems overheat. Morgan's voice replied. Good. Reed, plot a course directly between 2 of their ships, then hard to port. We're going to break their formation and make a run for the Yao Luminari vessel. Reed's eyes widened. Sir, that will expose our flank to their weapons. Yes, but it will also surprise them. Most species avoid risk. Humans use it to our advantage. Jack turned to Tanner. And while we're moving, broadcast on all frequencies. Tell any surviving Luminari to prepare for emergency docking and evacuation. The plan was put into action immediately. The Perseverance surged forward, engines burning bright, as it accelerated straight toward the gap between 2 alien ships. The unexpected move seemed to confuse the aliens. Their coordinated fire pattern broke for a few crucial seconds. The human ship shot between the 2 alien vessels close enough that the crew could see details on the alien hulls through the viewports. Then, just as the aliens began to adjust their aim, the Perseverance turned sharply left, its shields flickering as they strained against the forces of the maneuver, taking fire from the rear. Reed reported as the ship shook again. "Shields down to 78%. Keep going," Jack ordered. "Status of the luminary ship." "I'm detecting life signs, sir," Dr. Ellis called from her station. "At least 8 individuals. Their ship's life support is failing." The Perseverance continued its run toward the damaged research vessel, taking hits from behind as the alien ships gave chase. Jack watched the distance counter on his display, counting down the meters between them and the Luminari. 500 meters, 400, 300. "Sir," Tanner called out suddenly, "I'm getting a transmission from the Luminari ship." "Put it through," Jack ordered. A weak voice filled the bridge, accompanied by static human vessel. "This is lead researcher of the Luminari Science Academy. Please help us. They attacked without warning." "They're after our research data. We're coming to get you," Jack replied firmly. "Prepare for emergency docking. We'll evacuate your crew." As the Perseverance closed the final distance to the Luminary ship, the alien vessels adjusted their approach, spreading out to surround both ships. "They're trying to box us in," Reed warned. "Let them try," Jack said. He pressed his communication button again. "Brooks, prepare your boarding team at the main airlock. We're going to dock with the Luminari ship in approximately 2 minutes." "Ready and waiting, sir," came Brooks's steady reply. The Perseverance reached the Luminary vessel and extended its docking tube, the metal connector stretching out to create a sealed passage between the two ships. The alien ships continued to fire, their weapons now more carefully aimed to avoid hitting the Luminary vessel. "They want that ship intact," Jack realized aloud. Whatever research the Luminari were doing, these aliens wanted badly. As the docking procedure completed, Brooks and her team rushed through the tube into the damaged Luminary ship. The rest of the crew held their breath, waiting. The alien ships had stopped firing, but now hovered nearby, their weapons still aimed at the Perseverance. "Captain," Reed said quietly, "I'm detecting energy buildups in all 3 alien ships. It looks like they're preparing for something bigger than their previous attacks." Jack's mind raced through their options. The Perseverance was temporarily vulnerable while connected to the Luminari ship. They couldn't move quickly or raise shields to full power without breaking the connection and potentially leaving people behind. His communication panel lit up. "Captain, this is Brooks. We found the Luminari crew. 8 survivors, some injured, but all able to move. There's something else you should know." Her voice dropped lower. "The lead researcher says these aliens were specifically after their biological research data. Something about terraforming technology. And sir, they mentioned Earth several times during the attack. They were asking about our planet." Jack felt a cold feeling spread through his chest. This wasn't a random attack or simple piracy. These aliens had a specific interest in Earth. "Get everyone back to the ship as quickly as possible," he ordered. "We need to break away before they hit us with whatever they're charging up." As Brooks hurried the Luminary survivors toward the Perseverance, Jack stared at the alien ships on the screen, a new understanding dawning. They weren't just facing a threat to one ship. They might be facing a threat to their entire world. "All Luminari aboard, Captain," Brooks called through the communication system. Her voice was tight with urgency. "Sealing the airlock now. Disconnect docking tube and get us moving," Jack ordered immediately. "Reed, evasive pattern Delta, Morgan. I need full power to engines and shields." The Perseverance shuddered as it pulled away from the damaged Luminary ship. The docking tube retracted just as the first massive energy blast from the lead alien vessel sliced through space where they had been moments before. "That would have cut right through our hull," Reed said, his eyes wide as he watched the readings on his screen. "Their weapons are more powerful than they first appeared." Jack nodded grimly. They were holding back. "Tanner, what's the status of our distress call? Any response from Cooperative forces?" "Yes, sir," Tanner replied. 3 Cooperative patrol ships are responding. ETA 45 minutes. "We need to last that long," Jack said. He hit his communication button. "Dr. Ellis, status of the Luminary. 8 survivors total," Ellis replied from the medical bay. 2 with serious injuries. The others mostly suffering from smoke inhalation and minor burns. Their lead researcher, Illa, is asking to speak with you urgently. "Send her to the bridge when she's able," Jack ordered. The ship rocked again as another blast from the alien ships hit their shields. "Shields at 64% and falling," Reed reported. They've adjusted their attack pattern again. They're coordinating even better now. Jack studied the tactical display, watching how the three alien ships moved together like parts of a single organism. It reminded him of something. They move like a swarm of insects, he said aloud. Perfect coordination, like they're sharing information instantly. The bridge door opened, and a tall, thin alien entered. The luminari had pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly from within. As the alien moved closer, Jack could see patterns of light pulsing beneath the skin, changing from blue to green and back. This was how luminari communicated their emotions. "Captain Jack," the luminary said in a soft musical voice. "I am lead researcher Ella. Thank you for saving my crew." Jack nodded respectfully, but kept his attention split between the new arrival and the battle outside. "We're not safe yet. Those ships are still trying to capture or destroy us. You said they were after your research data. What exactly were you studying that would make them attack so aggressively?" Ice's skin pulsed with darker blue patterns, a sign of distress or concern in luminary body language. "We were studying a new method of accelerated plant growth for terraforming purposes, but that's not what they're after." The ship shook again as another hit struck their shields. "Shields at 51%. Captain Reed called out. "We can't take much more of this." Ella moved closer to Jack, the patterns on her skin now pulsing rapidly. 3 cycles ago, our sensors detected an unusual signal from an uncharted star system. We investigated and found evidence of an ancient civilization that had created powerful biological weapons. Weapons that could transform entire worlds to suit their needs. Jack's eyes narrowed. "And these attackers want that technology?" "Yes," Illa confirmed. "They call themselves the Swarm. We had never encountered them before, but they intercepted our transmission to the Science Council about our discovery. They attacked us and began downloading our research data. They were particularly interested in information about Earth." "Why Earth specifically?" Jack asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. Illa's skin flashed with rapid pulses of light. "Your world has the most diverse ecosystem in the known galaxy. More species of plants, animals, and microorganisms than any planet we've studied. To a species that uses biological weapons, Earth would be..." She paused, searching for the right word. "A treasure beyond measure." The main screen suddenly flickered, showing the face of Overlord Kren again. The alien's 6 yellow eyes seemed to glow with intensity. "Your interference is futile," the swarm leader said. "We have analyzed your vessel's capabilities. You cannot escape. Surrender now, and we will allow your crew to live as subjects of the swarm." Jack stood tall, facing the screen. "We're not surrendering our ship or our people. If you continue this attack, you'll face the consequences." The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. Brave words from a doomed species. "Your planet's biological wealth will soon serve the swarm. Our main fleet already moves toward your home system." The transmission ended abruptly. "They're bluffing," Reed said, but his voice lacked conviction. "They can't know where Earth is." Ella's skin pulsed with dark blue, almost purple light, a sign of great fear among the luminari. "They may not be bluffing. When they boarded our ship, they downloaded our navigational database. All cooperative planets are listed there, including Earth's coordinates." Jack felt a cold determination replace his earlier uncertainty. This wasn't just about saving one ship anymore. It was about protecting their entire world. "New plan," he announced to the bridge crew. "We're not just trying to survive until help arrives. We need to stop these ships from rejoining their fleet. If they have Earth's coordinates, we can't let them transmit that information." Reed looked at his captain with concern. "Sir, we're outnumbered and outgunned." "Yes, but we have something they don't," Jack replied. "We have human ingenuity, and we have knowledge they don't expect us to have thanks to Ayla." He turned to the luminari researcher. "Tell me everything you learned about them during your time on their ship. How do they communicate? What are their weaknesses?" AA's skin began to pulse with a lighter blue, a sign of hope or determination. "Their ships are connected through a hive mind. They share information instantly, which is why they coordinate so well. But this connection might also be a weakness. If one ship experiences something unexpected, it might disrupt the others as they process the new information." Jack smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile, but the kind humans made when facing a difficult challenge. That's exactly what I needed to know. He pressed his communication button. Engineer Morgan, I need you on the bridge now. And bring your terraforming equipment schematics. On my way, Captain Morgan replied, sounding confused. Jack turned to Dr. Ellis. Doctor, how much do you know about insect biology? Ellis blinked in surprise. Quite a bit, actually. I specialized in comparative xenobiology before joining this crew. Perfect. I need you to work with Morgan when he arrives. We're going to give the swarm something they've never experienced before. As the ship continued to shake under the swarm's attack, Jack explained his plan to the crew. It was dangerous, unusual, and exactly the kind of thinking that made humans different from other species. Most spacefaring races evolved on peaceful worlds where cooperation and technology developed naturally. Humans came from a world where survival often meant using the environment itself as a weapon. When Morgan arrived on the bridge a few minutes later, he carried a portable computer with detailed plans for terraforming equipment, machinery designed to make hostile environments habitable for humans. You want to use our terraforming systems as a weapon? Morgan asked, after Jack explained his idea. It's never been done before, but... He paused, studying the schematics. Theoretically, it could work. We'd need to reverse the atmospheric converters, overload the radiation filters, and modify the output frequencies. Can you do it? Jack asked simply. Morgan rubbed his chin, then nodded slowly. Yes, but I'll need at least 15 minutes to make the modifications, and we'd have to get very close to their ships for it to work. That's my problem to solve, Jack said. He turned to Reed. Lieutenant, I need our best evasive maneuvers for the next 15 minutes. Keep us alive while Morgan works. Reed nodded, determination in his eyes. Yes, sir. Jack looked at Ella, whose skin now pulsed with a mix of blue and green lights, showing both hope and fear. Your people developed peaceful uses for biological science. Now, we'll show you how humans from a death world think about biology when our survival is threatened. As Morgan hurried back to engineering to begin the modifications, Jack returned to his command chair. Outside, the three swarm ships continued their coordinated attack, pressing their advantage with cold efficiency. They had no way of knowing that the supposedly outmatched human vessel was preparing a response that no hive mind could have predicted. The next 15 minutes would determine not just their fate, but potentially the fate of Earth itself. Shields at 38%. Captain Reed called out as another blast from the swarm ships rocked the Perseverance. We can't take much more of this. Captain Jack gripped the arms of his command chair, his mind racing. They needed to buy time for Morgan to modify the terraforming equipment. Tanner, what's our status on the distress call? Cooperative forces still 32 minutes out, sir? She replied, holding on to her console as the ship shook again. Jack made a quick decision. Reed, target all weapons on the smallest swarm ship. Full power. Aim for their engines. But sir, that would leave us with minimal power for shields. Reed objected. I know. Do it anyway. Jack's voice was firm. Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense. Reed hesitated only for a second, before following orders, targeting smallest vessel's engine section, firing all weapons. But the Perseverance fired everything it had. Bright beams of energy shot across space, striking the smallest of the three swarm ships. The alien vessel's shields flickered, then failed as the concentrated attack overwhelmed them. The ship's engine section exploded in a burst of blue and orange fire. Direct hit, Reed announced, surprise evident in his voice. Their ship is disabled. On the bridge, the crew watched as the damaged swarm ship drifted. No longer a threat, the other two ships immediately changed their attack pattern, moving apart, to avoid presenting a single target. They're adapting, Jack observed, but they're also being more cautious now. He hit his communication button. Morgan, status report. Modifications at 60%. Captain Morgan's voice came through, accompanied by the sounds of tools and equipment being moved around. I need 10 more minutes. You've got 5, Jack replied. The swarm ships are regrouping. On the screen, the two remaining alien vessels had stopped firing and were moving into new positions. Jack studied their movements, trying to predict their next move. They're repositioning to attack from opposite sides, Reed said. Classic pincer maneuver. Ella, who had remained on the bridge, moved closer to Jack. The patterns of light under her blue skin were pulsing rapidly. Captain, there's something important you should know about the swarm. Their ships have a central processing node, similar to what humans would call a brain. If we could disrupt that node, it might confuse their entire system. Where is this node located? Jack asked. At the center of each ship, protected by their thickest armor, Ela answered. But there may be another way to reach it. The swarm relies on external sensors to collect information. If those sensors received overwhelming or contradictory data, it might overload the processing node. Jack's eyes lit up with understanding, like shining a bright light into someone's eyes to blind them temporarily. He turned to Dr. Ellis. Doctor, could we use our communication array to send out an overwhelming signal burst? Ellis thought for a moment. Yes, but it would have to be on very specific frequencies to match their sensor systems, and we'd need to know those frequencies. All eyes turned to Ila. The Luminari's skin glowed brighter. When they attacked our ship, we managed to scan some of their systems. I have data on their communication frequencies. Get that data to Ellis and Tanner immediately, Jack ordered. Let's give these swarm ships the worst headache they've ever had. While Elo worked with Ellis and Tanner to prepare the signal burst, the two remaining swarm ships completed their repositioning and resumed their attack. The Perseverance shook violently as energy blasts hit it from both sides. Shields at 22%, Reed reported, his voice tense. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. Emergency bulkheads deployed. Jack pressed his communication button again. Damage control teams to decks 3 and 4. Morgan, we need that terraforming equipment now. Just finish the modifications, Captain. Morgan replied. But there's a problem. We need to get much closer to the swarm ships for this to work, almost within touching distance. Jack looked at the tactical display, studying the positions of the enemy ships. How close exactly? Within 100 meters, Morgan said. And we'd need to hold that position for at least 30 seconds while the system powers up. Reed shook his head. Sir, that's suicide. They'd cut us to pieces at that range. Not if they can't see us coming, Jack replied. He turned to Tanner and Ellis. Is that signal burst ready? Yes, Captain, Ellis replied, using the frequencies ILA provided. We've created a burst that should temporarily overwhelm their sensor systems, but it will only last about 45 seconds. That's all we need, Jack said. He stood up from his chair and addressed the entire bridge. Here's the plan. We'll fire the signal burst to blind their sensors. Then we'll use our emergency thrusters to move quickly alongside the larger of the two ships. Once we're in position, Morgan will activate the modified terraforming equipment. If this works, we should be able to disable at least one more of their ships. He looked at each crew member in turn, seeing determination in their eyes. This is extremely dangerous. But if we don't stop these ships from rejoining their fleet, Earth will be in grave danger. This is what humans do best. We take risks when necessary to protect what matters. Jack returned to his chair and opened a ship-wide channel. All hands secure for extreme maneuvers. This is going to get rough. The crew braced themselves as Jack gave the order to begin. Ellis Tanner, fire the signal burst now. A powerful burst of energy shot out from the Perseverance's communication array, flooding the surrounding space with signals precisely tuned to the frequencies the swarm ships used for their sensors. The effect was immediate. Both alien vessels stopped firing and began moving erratically, like they had suddenly gone blind. It's working, Reed exclaimed. Their attack pattern has completely broken down. Now for Phase 2, Jack said. Reed, full emergency thrust. Take us right alongside the larger ship. The Perseverance shot forward, using its emergency thrusters to quickly close the distance to the larger swarm vessel. The human ship vibrated violently as the thrusters pushed it beyond normal safety limits. Distance to target, 200 meters, 153, 100. Reed counted down, his hands moving quickly over the controls. We're in position, Captain. Jack hit his communication button. Morgan. Now in the engineering section, Morgan activated the modified terraforming equipment, originally designed to transform hostile environments into habitable ones. The machinery had been reversed to do the opposite, create conditions that were extremely hostile to the swarm's biology. The equipment hummed to life, emitting waves of energy that couldn't be seen, but struck the nearby swarm ship with full force. The energy penetrated the alien vessel's hull and began disrupting the carefully balanced biological systems inside. On the screen, the crew watched as lights flickered across the swarm ship's hull. Sections of it began to power down, and its weapons stopped firing completely. "It's working," Ellis said, excitement in her voice. "The modified terraforming energy is disrupting their biological systems." The signal burst was beginning to fade, however, and the second swarm ship was already recovering from its effects. It turned toward the Perseverance weapons powering up again. "We've got company," Reed warned. "The second ship is coming around for another attack." Jack made another quick decision. "Break away from the disabled ship. Reed put as much distance between us and them as possible. We've done enough damage for now." As the Perseverance pulled away from the disabled swarm vessel, the second ship fired on them. With their shields severely weakened, the blast tore through the human ship's defenses and struck the hull directly. "Hull breach on Deck 2, Tanner called out. "Fires reported in sections 4 through 7. "Emergency teams respond," Jack ordered calmly, despite the chaos. "Seal off those sections if necessary." On the tactical display, Jack could see that they had disabled 2 of the 3 swarm ships. Only 1 remained functional. And then, appearing at the edge of the display, new signals appeared. The Cooperative patrol ships were finally arriving. "Sir, Cooperative forces have entered the nebula," Reed reported, relief evident in his voice. "They'll be in weapons range in 2 minutes." Jack allowed himself a small smile. They had held out long enough. Earth's coordinates were safe for now, but as he looked at the disabled swarm ships, he knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, a swarm fleet was heading toward Earth, unaware that their advanced scouts had been defeated. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. The Cooperative patrol ships arrived with weapons charged, surrounding the remaining functional swarm vessel. Their arrival couldn't have been better timed. The Perseverance was badly damaged with multiple hull breaches and shields nearly depleted. "Cooperative vessels are hailing us, Captain." Tanner reported relief evident in her voice. "Put them on screen," Jack ordered. The main screen lit up to show the commanding officer of the lead Cooperative patrol ship. Admiral Vex was a tall, slender alien with silvery skin and large dark eyes, a member of the Solari species known for their tactical brilliance. "Captain Jack," the Admiral said, "your distress call mentioned an unknown hostile force. I see you've been busy while waiting for our arrival." Jack nodded tiredly. "Admiral, we have 2 disabled swarm vessels and 1 still combat capable. These aren't ordinary pirates. They're advanced scouts for an invasion force targeting Earth and possibly other Cooperative worlds." Admiral Vex's expression turned serious. "That's a grave accusation, Captain. Do you have evidence?" "We have rescued Luminari researchers who were attacked by the swarm, and we have data downloaded from their ship," Jack replied. "The swarm is interested in Earth's biodiversity for use in biological weapons. They already have our coordinates as if on cue. The remaining swarm ship tried to make a run for it, accelerating away from the Cooperative vessels. It didn't get far. The patrol ships fired in unison, disabling its engines within seconds. "We'll take custody of these vessels," Admiral Vex said. "Your ship appears to be in need of immediate repairs. Do you require evacuation?" Jack looked around at his crew, seeing determination in their eyes despite their exhaustion. "No evacuation needed, Admiral. We can make it back to the nearest station if you can provide an escort." "Of course," Vex replied. "But first, I want to hear exactly what happened here and what we're potentially facing over the next hour." As repair teams worked to stabilize the Perseverance's damaged systems, Jack, Ela, and the senior officers met in the ship's conference room with Admiral Vex and his security team. They shared everything they had learned about the swarm, from their biology to their tactics. "Based on their communications, we believe their main fleet is already on its way to Earth," Jack explained, pointing to star charts they had projected onto the conference room wall. "The question is, how do we stop them?" Admiral Vex studied the data carefully. "The Cooperative Council will need to be informed immediately. We can dispatch a defense fleet to Earth system, but it may take time to gather enough ships." "Time is the one thing we don't have," Jack replied. "And even with a defense fleet, we'd be fighting on their terms. We need to be smarter than that." Engineer Morgan, who had been quiet until now, leaned forward. "Captain, what if we could use what we learned about their biology against their entire fleet?" All eyes turned to Morgan as he continued. The modified terraforming equipment worked on the individual ships. If we could scale it up, create a larger field effect, we'd need a massive power source, Jack said, catching on to Morgan's thinking, and a way to deploy it directly in the path of their fleet. Ella's skin pulsed with bright patterns of light as she joined the conversation. The Luminary Science Academy has been developing large-scale terraforming systems for use on dead worlds. The principles are the same, just at a much larger scale. Dr. Ellis nodded excitedly. And if we combine that with what we've learned about the swarm's biological weaknesses, we could create a defense system that would make Earth too costly for them to attack. Jack looked at Admiral Vex. We don't need to defeat their entire fleet in battle. We just need to make Earth not worth the cost. The Admiral considered this for a moment. The swarm operates on a strict resource calculation basis, according to your reports. If the cost of attacking Earth outweighs the potential gain, they'll look elsewhere, Jack finished. We need to get back to Earth immediately and start preparations. Admiral Vex stood up. I'll assign my fastest vessel to escort you. The Perseverance has done enough fighting for now. 3 days later, the damaged but still functional Perseverance arrived in Earth's orbit, accompanied by the Cooperative patrol ship. Earth's defense forces had already been alerted and were mobilizing, but as Jack had argued, conventional weapons might not be enough against the swarm's biological technology. In a rare emergency session, representatives from Earth's nations met with Cooperative officials, the crew of the Perseverance, and the rescued Luminary researchers. Together, they devised a plan that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. Engineer Morgan stood before the assembled officials, explaining their proposal. By combining our modified terraforming technology with the Luminar's large-scale biological field generators, we can create a defensive system that specifically targets the swarm's biological weaknesses. How quickly can this be implemented? Asked the Earth Defense Commander, a stern woman with decades of military experience. With the resources of Earth's nations working together, plus cooperative assistance, Morgan replied. We could have the first phase operational within 2 weeks. The swarm fleet will arrive in 3 weeks, according to our calculations, IL added, the patterns of light under her skin pulsing with urgency. The defense commander looked at Captain Jack. Your crew encountered these aliens firsthand. In your opinion, will this plan work? Jack stood up, his expression serious. The swarm is formidable, but they have a critical weakness. They think like a hive, calculating risks and resources with cold logic. They don't understand how species from Deathworlds think. He walked to the front of the room, standing next to Morgan and Illa. On Earth, our history is filled with examples of weaker forces defeating stronger ones through creativity and unconventional tactics. The swarm expects us to either surrender or fight conventionally. They don't expect us to change the rules of the game entirely. For the next 2 weeks, Earth became a hive of activity itself. Teams of human scientists worked alongside Luminary researchers, building and deploying a network of modified terraforming devices in orbit around the planet. The largest terraforming platforms from Mars and Europa were brought to Earth and repurposed as defensive weapons. Captain Jack and the crew of the Perseverance, despite being offered well-deserved rest, worked tirelessly alongside the defense teams. They had faced the swarm and survived. Their experience was invaluable. On the day the swarm fleet was detected approaching the solar system, Earth was ready. The defensive network was in place, though untested at such a scale. Ships from across the Galactic Cooperative had arrived to support Earth, but they remained in the background. This was humanity's fight. Clear your minds. Jack stood on the bridge of the newly repaired Perseverance, watching as the massive swarm fleet appeared on their long-range sensors. Hundreds of ships all moving in perfect formation. It was an intimidating sight. They're hailing us, Tanner reported. It's being broadcast to all Earth frequencies. Put it on screen, Jack ordered. The image of a larger, more ornate version of the swarm aliens appeared. This one had more eyes and elaborate markings on its scaled skin. I am High Commander Vrex of the Swarm Collective, the alien announced. Your planet's biological resources will serve our expansion. Surrender now, and some of your people may be allowed to live as servants. Jack stepped forward, his face calm. This is Captain Jack of Earth. We've encountered your kind before. We know what you want, and we know how you think." "Then you know resistance is futile," the swarm commander replied. "Our calculations show that your defenses are insufficient." Jack smiled slightly. "That's where you're wrong. You calculated based on conventional weapons and tactics. We decided to change the equation." At his signal, the Earth Defense Network activated. Hundreds of modified terraforming platforms powered up simultaneously, creating an overlapping field of energy, specifically designed to disrupt the swarm's biological systems. The field expanded outward, reaching toward the approaching fleet. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The perfectly organized swarm formation began to break apart as their ship's biological components reacted to the field. Some ships veered off course. Others lost power completely. "They didn't expect this," Jack said to his crew as they watched the swarm fleet falter. "They thought they were attacking a vulnerable world. Instead, they found a planet full of deathers who know how to fight back." The swarm tried to press their attack, but as more of their ships entered the defensive field, more began to fail. Finally, after what seemed like hours, but was only minutes, the remaining swarm vessels began to retreat. On the screen, High Commander Rex's image flickered as the ship's system struggled against the terraforming field. "This is not possible. Our calculations were based on incomplete information," Jack finished for him. "That's the thing about humans. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to do the impossible just to survive. Remember that before you think about coming back." The transmission cut off as the swarm fleet retreated beyond the range of Earth's sensors. The immediate threat was over. Throughout Earth's cities, people celebrated their survival. But Captain Jack and his crew knew better than to think this was the end. The swarm would recalculate, adapt, and possibly return one day. But next time, Earth would be even more prepared. In the days that followed, the Galactic Cooperative officially recognized humanity's contribution to defeating the swarm threat. Species that had once viewed humans with caution now looked at them with new respect. The Deathworlders had proven their worth. As for the Perseverance and her crew, they received new orders to lead an expedition to find the swarm's homeworld and negotiate a more permanent peace. It would be dangerous, possibly even more dangerous than their first encounter. But as Captain Jack told his crew when they received their mission, "This is what humans do best. We face the impossible, and we find a way to survive, not just for ourselves, but for everyone." The Perseverance left Earth orbit 2 weeks later, heading into the unknown once more. Behind them, Earth continued its preparations. A planet of Deathworlders now fully awakened to the dangers of the galaxy and ready to face whatever came